Good morning. Welcome to the sanctuary of First Parish Church of Groton. I'm Reverend Aaliyah Kemmler, minister of First Parish. My pronouns are she, her, hers. We are a community seeking to deepen spiritually, to take care of one another, and to be a blessing to this world. Unitarian Universalism is a faith for all, so bring all of who you are. All of your beliefs, identities, abilities, challenges, and gifts. Bring all of what you have been and all of what you have done. There is room here and spacious grace. Our congregation welcomes and includes a wide diversity of beliefs, so I invite you to freely translate the language you hear in today's service. Make it work for you. Our spiritual community is vibrant here in Groton, Massachusetts, and also with members and friends across the continent. And if you would like more information about us, about our upcoming programs, events, and small groups, email welcome@uugroton.org, and we would be so glad to get you connected. We have learned through the pandemic that our sanctuary is not confined to this room or to any place at all. Sanctuary is what we create together. We will joyfully gather again in this physical space in 2 weeks on Sunday, March 20th. You all come, March 20th. And for those who join us at another time or from other places, we will continue with our virtual church gathering at 7 o'clock on Sunday evenings. Today we invite children of all ages to join religious education with Liz and Cynthia after the time for all ages. We'll put the Zoom link in the chat and remind you when it is time. If you are able to support this community with a financial donation in any amount, please know that we are so grateful. You can visit our newly designed and completely beautiful website at www.uugroton.org. If you haven't seen it yet, please go on over there and check it out. And we invite you to click on the donate button there. Your financial support is needed, and also know that your membership in this community will never be measured by your ability to contribute financially. Also in the chat, you will see a link for different places you can donate to support the people of Ukraine. It is hard to know what to do. But for those who are able, financial support makes a difference. We also need people to sign up as welcomers, chalice lighters, greeters, and ushers for our move inside. The link to sign up for all of the things is in the chat. It is also in your weekly church-wide email. Special thanks today to our cantor, Jan Hadland, and wait till you hear her. Thank you also to Bob Fleischer, who is on tech this morning here in the sanctuary, and to Lorraine Scampini and Cindy Premru, who are greeting online. It takes a village to make a service. You are all invited to virtual coffee following the service on Zoom. Just stay on the link if you are already on Zoom, and if you're not, the link to coffee hour will be in the chat. If you are here on Sunday morning, please say hello. Let us know you are here so we can welcome you by name. And whenever and from wherever you are joining us, please come in, rest here for a while, receive hope and strength, and know that you are so welcome. Stephen Garnas Holmes writes, "Even among the hungering stones, the Spirit lives. Even in barren places, love offers its merciful bread." And so as we enter into this time of worship, I invite you to let yourself touch the barren and hurting places of this world where people are hungry and afraid, especially Ukraine and the people there. May they have bread and safety. I call you into worship now. I call you into this time of sanctuary we create together across distances and screens. And I invite you to know the barren places in yourself. Breathe into them. And remember that you are held in love, that you are seen and known by the love which holds us all in tenderness and asks us to do the same for ourselves and for each other. So as has become our tradition, I will ring the meditation bowl 3 times. And I invite you to take some good, deep breaths. And this first bell is for you. And the second one is for all of the ones you love. And the third one is for our beautiful, hurting world. So we are going to sing the opening hymn, Morning Has Come. Jan will lead us, and the lyrics will be in the chat, so you can sing along, and I hope you will.
Shine. Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you, Sean. Reverend Charles Rind Joy. I forgot to tell you who I am. Sorry. My name is Lee Kinvey. I'm your intern minister. I use they, them pronouns. Reverend Charles Rind Joy, a Unitarian minister, was born in Boston and looking for a job. When Germany annexed Austria in 1938, Reverend Joy joined the brand new, boots on the ground Unitarian Service Committee. The Unitarian Service Committee was founded in Boston to help Eastern Europeans, mostly Jews, who were escaping Nazi persecution. In 1940, he was asked to direct the whole Unitarian aid across Europe. At that time, Lisbon, Portugal was the only open port in Europe, and millions of refugees were pouring through there. So Reverend Joy worked, based in Lisbon, overseeing this secret network of couriers and agents who helped provide identification papers and travel documents that would let the refugees escape to freedom. But the Unitarian Service Committee that he led was an unknown organization, and that was a disadvantage during wartime environment. The ability to quickly establish trust across barriers of language, nationality, and faith could mean life instead of death. Reverend Joy decided that they needed a recognizable symbol, what we might today call a logo, that they could put on papers to dignify them and to make them look official and to symbolize the spirit of what they were doing. Joy wrote, "When a document may keep a man out of jail, give him standing with governments and police, it is important that it look important." So in Lisbon, he met an Austrian Jewish refugee who was an artist by the name of Hans Dutch, and he asked Dutch to create a symbol for the Unitarian Service Committee. And the result was essentially a drawing of the flaming chalice as we know it now. In January 1941, Joy wrote, "It represents, as you see, a chalice with a flame, the kind of chalice that the Greeks and Romans put on their altars. The holy oil burning in it is a symbol of helpfulness and sacrifice. The fact that it remotely suggests a cross was not in the artist's mind, but to me this also has its merit," Joy wrote. "We do not limit our work to Christians. Indeed, at the present moment, our work is 9/10 for the Jews. Yet we do stem from the Christian tradition, and the cross does symbolize Christianity and its central theme of sacrificial love." End quote. So no one is completely sure how the two-dimensional drawing was transformed into widespread use of three-dimensional chalices. But all the evidence suggests that the path led directly through our children's religious exploration programs. Curricula used for RE in the late 70s talked about the meaning of the chalice and encouraged the kids to make chalices. And eventually those evolved into objects that could be lit. The first documented use of chalices in the main sanctuary of Unitarian Universalist churches are from Sundays during which the children and youth were leading the worship, and they were demonstrating their practice to the adult congregants. By the early 1980s, most Unitarian Universalist congregations were lighting a chalice as part of the weekly worship service. So we light our chalice this morning. Our chalice is a work of art with its own history that we'll talk about another day. But we'll light this chalice this morning in honor of our lineage, of our ancestors, and of our children, who always lead us forward. So we will sing together our response, which is always Spirit of Life, led by Jan. Spirit of Life is by Carolyn McDade. We sing it first in Spanish, translated by Reverend Lilia Cuervo and Ervin Barrios, and then we sing it in English. And if everything's going well, the words will be in the chat. So please sing along.
So I'd like to talk to the children for a moment and to the child part of us all. And first, let's say our words for gathering. We are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands ready to help. So, we have a goodbye to say today, or at least a goodbye to start to say today. Most of you know that our Director of Religious Education, Liz Davis Chafin, moved to Virginia. But because we've been doing so much virtually, including religious education for at least part of the time, Liz has been able and also willing to keep being our Director of Religious Education even from there. But now we are returning to the church building for hopefully a good long time, and we know we need someone to be here, to be Cynthia's partner in creating RE. Liz will be with us until the end of March, so you still have time to write to her or to set up a Zoom meeting, and we're going to put her email in the chat, and I encourage you to say your own goodbye. But while we are still having people join us on Zoom for church and Liz can be with us, I wanted to make sure that we said goodbye today. Liz has been our Director of Religious Education for a long time, almost 12 years, which is a lot older than some of you are. She knows and cares about the kids in our congregation, the teenagers in our congregation, the parents and the grandparents and the grown-ups who don't have kids too. She's led a lot of art groups and parent support groups, and she has met with a lot of people to help them figure out what their gifts are and how they want to use them. And she has been a leader in our racial justice work. Liz is very gentle, but also very persistent. And she has helped us to understand that racial justice needs to be a part of everything we do, not just one thing we learn that's separate from other things. Liz makes room for everyone. That is one of her superpowers, especially kids who feel shy when they first come here, or people who feel like they don't really belong. Liz likes to be in the background, so this is probably really hard for her, but it is important. It's important that we tell her thank you and how much we will all miss her. We say here in our community that we are made more whole by each person who comes here, and that until each one of us got here, there was an empty space in the exact shape of us. So if that's true, then it's also true that with each person who leaves, we are not as whole. We're not the same. And we will not be the same without Liz. But here is what I know. Love does not disappear. And there is an invisible thread like a fishing line that will always connect Liz to this congregation and all of us to Liz. So Liz, if we were all here in the sanctuary together, this would be the time that the children would put homemade holy water on your hands to bless whatever work is ahead of you. And then they would put water on your feet to bless your journey. And then they would pour a lot of water on your head to bless your spirit. And because you know that they like pouring water on people's heads. But instead, I will mail you a jar of holy water, and maybe Bailey can do that part. But I will say the words that we use For those who are leaving our congregation, and these are taken from a blessing by Jan Richardson called Ascending Blessing. It is a strange thing to be so bound and so released, all in the same moment, to feel the heart open wide and wider still, even as it turns to take its leave. On this day, let us say this is simply the way love moves, in its ceaseless spiraling, turning us toward one another, and then sending us into what waits for us, with arms open wide in welcome and in hope. On this day and in this place, where you have poured yourself out, where you have been emptied and I hope filled, may you be aware more than ever of what your heart has opened to hear, what your heart has tended and created and welcomed here, all of the ways it has given blessing. And so now I'll ask the congregation to repeat these words of blessing to Liz after me. And even though she can't hear all of you, she will feel that blessing. And I'll ask those of you who are here in the sanctuary to say them out loud after me. Liz, this day we send you forth, but we will not forget you.
Liz, this day we send you forth, but we will not forget you.
This day we release you into the Spirit's keeping.
This day we release you into the Spirit's keeping.
Even as we hold you in gladness and love.
Even as we hold you in gladness and love.
Amen. So now I would like to invite children of all ages to join Liz and Cynthia for religious education on Zoom. The link will be in the chat.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. So I'll invite you to reconnect with your physical presence wherever you are, into your body and your breath, the places where you and gravity pull down. So you can be present both on your screen and in your physical surroundings. We arrive together, bringing all the joy and all the sorrow of these complex lives. If you're here with us on Sunday morning or Sunday evening, this is the time for you to write into the chat the sorrows and worries you're carrying, also your joys, your celebrations, your gratitudes. Burdens are lightened when they're shared, and joys are magnified. If you're with us at another time, I encourage you to name for yourself what's most alive for you right now. And while we do that and share in the chat, Jan will sing Holly Near's song, I Am Willing, one of my favorites.
To be hopeless.
That's what it's about. That's it. Okay, sorry. What an anthem. Yeah. So, as we move deeper into our time of prayer and meditation, as we lift ourselves and each other up to the light of change, we hold the prayers of this community, the ones shared in the chat, and also these. Our prayers of comfort and peace go to Wendy and her family. Our prayers for health and healing go to Steve L., to Jerry H., to Ryan H., to Meg and Tommy recovering from a car accident, and to Emily, who runs the soup kitchen we donate to. We send prayers of compassion and healing to Karen's brother David, to Jane's friend Anne, to Diane's friend Carolyn, to Jean's friend Barry, to Pamela's sister-in-law Sandy, and to my dear friend Tricia. We send our prayers to Peg and Trish and to Ellen as they cope with imminent or recent loss of beloved pets. And we send our love and our good wishes and our prayers to Keith at the death of his friend Dan. We continue to send our collective prayers to the people of Ukraine and to all people living in wartime and in state violence, including in Ethiopia, in Syria, in Yemen, in Afghanistan, and elsewhere. And today we celebrate with Kara and her family the building of their new home in Hubbardston. We celebrate my son Lars's 18th birthday on Tuesday. And we celebrate the 21st anniversary of Aaliyah's installation as minister of First Parish Church of Groton. The end of our prayer this morning is excerpted from the writing of Reverend M. Barclay. Spirit of God, when paths of transformation lead into times of wilderness, periods of learning and unlearning, may your presence be our steady companion. If we feel afraid of the unfamiliar or unknown, remind us we do not go alone. Remind us that this is part of love's work. Help us be patient with our journey, letting love set the pace. And if we feel ashamed, confronted by regrets, embarrassed by ignorance, trapped by snares of guilt, may your grace be near, and may courage steady our way. We don't want to waste this life, a stranger to the miracle of being alive. We want to be fully awake to all the beauty that surrounds us. We want to be determined in hope, a relentless pursuer of what could be. We want to be messengers of belonging to every soul that weighs heavy under narratives of bigotry or hate. Draw near to the ones who ache. Comfort the brokenhearted and shore up beside the afflicted. We know it's not enough only to weep, but your compassion reminds us that we cannot mend the world without bearing witness to its sorrow. Keep us from despair that overcomes, but never let us become strangers to the world's ache, turning away from the pain of our neighbor. Whatever destruction we may witness, may we never grow cold to love or be convinced of the inevitability of cruelty. Holy One, whisper things of vulnerability, of sharing what we have, of solidarity, and of new life. Love that calls us to fight for each other and awakens us to the joy set before us. With the meditations and prayers of our own hearts, we'll rest a while in sacred silence. Our anthem this morning is the oneness of everything.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind. There find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world upon its wings. In the oneness of everything. Peace is in the dance of trees who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trusting the song, becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth, ever giving. And now to maintain the harmony is to us all lives worth living. For the oneness of everything. Still we seek to find a truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and
Thank you, Jan. So beautiful. And that song, The Oneness of Everything, was written by Jim Scott. So here we are in the first week of Lent, that period of 40 days before the celebration of Easter. Lent is 40 days because that is the length of time Jesus is said to have spent in the desert, fasting, meditating, praying, preparing before he began his ministry in the world. And the 40 days of Lent are an echo of the 40 years the Israelites spent wandering after they fled slavery in Egypt and before they found and fought their way to the Promised Land, and also an echo of the 40 days that Moses spent on Mount Sinai, receiving the 10 Commandments. In the Catholic and in some Protestant traditions, this past Wednesday was Ash Wednesday. And that is the day when many Christians go to churches and have ashes painted on their foreheads in the sign of a tiny cross. The ashes are made from burning the palms left over from last year's Palm Sunday service, when green palm leaves are given to the congregation in remembrance of Jesus' final journey into Jerusalem before he died. The leftovers are burned down to ash, and the worship leader dabs a tiny bit on each person's forehead and says, "Remember, you are dust, and to dust you will return." In other words, we are temporary. We don't last forever. Our time here is limited. So the season of Lent begins with this visible and physical and poignant reminder that death is inevitable for all of us. We are not immortal. We are vulnerable and impermanent, and so life is precious. This is such a hard human lesson, and so easy to forget, and so Lent begins with this annual reminder. I remember when my children were very little, maybe just 5 or 6, and some of their classmates came to school on the Thursday morning after Ash Wednesday with the smudge of ashes still on their foreheads. And those of you who remember Isabel as a child will remember that she was not a shy child, and she demanded to know why there was dirt on the faces of her classmates. And one girl explained that she didn't know why, but that the church had given it to her. And Isabel came home outraged that her minister mother had not given out dirt in church. I tried to explain. I remember saying that the ashes were for being sad that Jesus was going to die, but I confess I could not bring myself to add that it was a reminder that so are each one of us. And while Ash Wednesday is not part of our tradition, this year in particular, after 2 years of pandemic time and the levels upon levels of loss we have endured, maybe we can understand our mortality and the preciousness of life in a deeper way. And as we emerge from this phase of the pandemic and start to enter the world again, little by little, and with this uncertain and tremulous hope that maybe this time will be the last, maybe we can enter this season of Lent in a deeper way. Essentially, Lent is a time to prepare ourselves for the new life that is coming. Both the literal new life of spring and also some kind of internal, spiritual new life too. This is the time of preparing for rebirth, for resurrection. And for me, this is not about whether or not we believe in the literal truth of the Easter message that Jesus died and came alive again. More, it is about the truth of that story, that the story does not end with death. It ends with life. The truth of the story that love does not disappear. So Lent is about spiritual rebirth. It is about new hope, new life. How does resurrection happen for us this year? What does it mean for us to get ready for it this time around? In the midst of whatever we are living in particular, and in the midst of the world we are living in. For what do our spirits long? Where does our deepest yearning lie? Life is fragile. Our bodies are fragile. And things can change so fast. COVID has taught us that over and over. So now what? What do we want to do with our one wild and precious life, as Mary Oliver so beautifully put it? And how can we at least try to remember that? Stephen Garnaas Holmes is a retired minister in Maine. He actually served a congregation in Acton. And he sends out a daily poem. And he sent out a beautiful one about Lent this week. But to fully appreciate it, I think we need a little context in the Christian story for those of us who aren't familiar. 3 of the 4 Gospels tell this story, so we know it is important. And they say that during the time that Jesus was in the desert, those 40 days, he was tempted by the devil, a creature who is not described at all and we know nothing about, except that the devil is able to quote passages of the Hebrew Bible at Jesus. The Gospel of Luke tells the story this way. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing at all during those days, and when they were over, he was famished. And the devil said to him, "Well, if you are the Son of God, command this stone to become a loaf of bread." And Jesus answered, "It is written that one does not live by bread alone." So Jesus does not turn the stone into bread to break his 40-day fast. Instead, he quotes from the Hebrew Bible, the book of Deuteronomy, which is the book full of the developing laws for the Jewish people, where it says, "One does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." In other words, we do need bread, but we also need spiritual food. So here's the poem that Stephen Garnaas Holmes sent this week, referring to that temptation offered to Jesus to turn stone into bread. And Stephen Garnaas Holmes asks us to consider the stones that we hold, the ways that we wish our stones could be something different than they are. He writes, "So much we are hungry for what does not feed us. So many stones we wish we could turn to bread. Call them to mind. Hold these stones in your hand. Feel their gray mass, their lightless insides, the weight of disappointment, the edges of refusal, the dense failure to satisfy. You can't change them. Cease gnawing on them. Let them be stones. Set them down. And in the breeze, feel the breath of the present one, moving among the unmoving stones, light and sweet. Let yourself be nourished by that wind, freely flowing, invisible, rich with grace, thick with energy. Even among the hungering stones, the Spirit lives. Even in the barren places, love offers its merciful bread. Could this be the year that we stop eating stones instead of bread? Or at least begin to try to stop? Think about the stones you are holding right now, the things you want so desperately to be different, but they aren't different, no matter how hard you try. And think about the way you try to feed yourself with stones, the way you feed yourself with things that don't nourish you. Maybe this is the Lent, to start putting them down and to start feeding ourselves with bread, with good spiritual food, not for 40 days, just for one day at a time, maybe 1 hour at a time, maybe one moment at a time. Maybe this is the moment you stop drinking, or the day you leave a relationship with someone who causes great pain. Maybe this is the moment you start praying again, even though you aren't sure what prayer is or why you're doing it. Maybe this is the day you decide you're going to trust someone, or forgive someone, or lay down an old hurt and let it rest. Just for today, or maybe just for a few minutes, and then practice it again tomorrow. Maybe this is the day we could go outside for a walk, or just stand in the wind and feel the breath of the present one moving in us. One of you said to me recently, the last 2 years have been one long, long Lent. And it's true. We have lost so much. We have given up so much. And the reminder of the ashes has been so much with us. But even in the barren places, love offers its merciful bread. And that bread is for all of us, whoever we are, whatever we have done, in whatever barren place we find ourselves now. Will you put down your stones and take up bread instead? Will you let yourself eat? So let's sing together our closing hymn, which is Blue Boat Home. And Jan will lead the singing, and the lyrics will be in the chat, and I hope that you will sing along.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far
Before we close today, just a reminder that all who are local are warmly invited and encouraged to join our Black Lives Matter vigil at noon on Main Street in front of the church this Sunday and every Sunday. And please stay for coffee hour on Zoom following the postlude music. The link will be in the chat, or if you are on Zoom already, just stay where you are. But for now, will you put a hand on your heart, and with the other, let's reach out to one another and know that we are connected. We are tied together by strong and sturdy threads of love.
Go in peace. Be a blessing to this world.